tracks, stats, and facts. www.enterthedome.com.
Good people, what's going on? Tony the Dome Hill, episode 28. The best 3 album runs in hip-hop history is something we're going to discuss today. It's been a little while, man, so it's good to be back on. It's good to talk about hip-hop, and hopefully you guys enjoy this new episode, man. And, in music, for an artist to have a run, first of all, for an artist to have a great album is a big deal. I think people often take for granted how hard it is to drop and release a great piece of work. Some artists will tell you their magnum opus took them a lifetime to do, and a lot of times that could be their first album, and it took them their whole life to get to that point where everything was encompassed in that one body of work. But to do that multiple times is something only the greats do in a lot of cases. Sometimes underrated artists drop 3 great or solid projects. A lot of the times our legends, we expect that. They're legends because they are able to do that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, just think about outside of hip hop. We're going to talk about hip hop, but just for some context, I recently posted on Twitter, Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder in the 70s having literally 5 album runs. You know what I'm saying? Now we're talking about the best 3 album run in hip hop. But we're talking also Stevie Wonder having, Innervisions, fulfilling his first finale, and Songs in the Key of Life, stuff like that. Marvin Gaye having What's Going On and Trouble, man, and I Want You, and all these albums back to back to back, man. So whenever you think about, Michael Jackson having Off the Wall, Thriller, and What Bad, or something like that, you know what I'm saying? And, Prince having his run, and Luther Vandross having a run, the Beatles having a run, and Hall & Oates having a run, and of course so many, Earth, Wind & Fire, the Isley Brothers. The list goes on and on with some of these amazing artists and groups having 3 to 5 album runs. You know what I'm saying? But in hip hop, it did happen a couple of times as well. But just to set the standard, I like to say that the most important 3 album run to me is Run DMC's 3 album run starting around 82. You think of actually starting around 84. Run DMC's self-titled album, then King of Rock in 85, and then Raising Hell in 86. So you're talking about in a 3-year span. First of all, Run DMC took over the game with the self-titled album. I've often posted that as the album that made me fall in love with hip-hop when I was a young little boy, and my brother 7 years older than me was, DJing, doing little parties, and I learned how to scratch records off that record. You know what I'm saying? This is, 84, 85 era, excuse me. So you have self-titled, King of Rock, we know about that, and then you have Raising Hell that absolutely pretty much turned hip-hop global. Before that, obviously, you had national stars. You had the Sugar Hill Gang, you had Curtis Blow, and even to a degree, you had Grandmaster Flash, Melle Mel. Treacherous 3 had people who, was getting, notoriety around the country. But Run DMC, what they did with Raising Hell, and also, of course, blending rock and rap, samples and beats and things of that nature, it just made it global. My Adidas, whatever. So, Run DMC has the most important 3 album run. But there are other great 3 album runs to discuss, and then we'll talk about some of the, maybe ranking a few of them. You know what I'm saying? So when I think, let's go back to the Beastie Boys. They had a nice run. Just looking right here, License to Ill, Paul's Boutique, and in the Check Joint. But during that time also, you start getting into your EPMDs coming out at some point. KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions coming out. Because you can look at, we'll talk about KRS-One as well. KRS-One actually has 2 3 album runs, because he has a 3 album runs with BDP. Then he has a 3 album, I want to say Criminal Minded, by all means necessary. It might be entertainment or ghetto music. I have to double check that, or you can fact check me on that. Then of course you have, Return of the Boom Bap, the KRS-One self-titled album, and I believe after that, Step Into a World. You know what I'm saying? So Chris did it twice. You know what I'm saying? And of course, the BDP 3-album run is stronger than his solo. Most people will say, which at the end of the day, both of them actually his solo. You can say he had, maybe a 5 or 6 album run if you combine Boogie Down Productions and the KRS-One solo albums, because at the end of the day, KRS-One was really the only person that rapped on the Boogie Down Production albums. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a verse here and there by someone, of course, Just Ice rap with them, and stuff like that. I know D-Nice did some production, but it was really all KRS-One. So when you look at it again, that's just something for conversation purposes. KRS-One did it twice. You know what I'm saying? During that time, Tribe Called Quest drops, People Instinctive Travels, then the Low End Theory, and the Midnight Marauders. Some would argue that Tribe's run, and I remember first time hearing Bonita, and then hearing Left My Wild El Segundo, and of course, Can I Kick It? And I'm like, yo, this is a dope album. I mean, for me, I thought it was great. They ended up becoming my favorite rap group after Run DMC and EPMD at some point. But when the Low End Theory dropped, then they took this whole jazz thing with Q-Tip to another level. Of course, we had Steph Silence and people before them, but you know what I mean. Q-Tip with the sampling really made it popular. And then, of course, they came up with the Low End Theory. The Midnight Marauders, and that was just it. Then from People Instinctive Travels to the Low End Theory to the Midnight Marauders, you can say that. I would say that's a top 5 3-album run in hip hop history. I will say that, along with Run DMC's, and then we'll talk about a few others. Obviously, people have seen me recently talk about Outkast, and you have to respect the greatness of Outkast, and what they've done could be the most impressive of the 3-album run series that we're talking about, because most of the 3-album runs, like let's say EPMD, it follows a sound, right? Like most artists, you got Strictly Business, Unfinished Business, and Business as Usual, 3 dope albums, but it sounds like EPMD. They kept a certain formula. Even with Tribe, the vibe, it sounds kind of similar to a degree, the Tribe albums. Outkast, on the other hand, Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music, ATLiens, and Aquemini, they all sound like they're about 3 different groups almost. You know what I mean? Like the creativity shown on each album, and each one of them hitting the mark, and each one of them being classic albums to me. That's why I said that, yeah, Outkast is not the most important rap group in the history of the genre, even though it's probably the most important Southern group. But they are the greatest rap group to me, because you can also add in, some will say Stankonia makes this a 4-album run, because Stankonia is actually their highest rated album. Excuse me. Cheers. Happy New Year's ever. So you could say it's a 4-album run. Now with me, real quick, with Tribe, unlike some people, I think Beats, Rhymes, and Life is stellar. So I would say they have a 4-album run, but just for the sake of this episode, we're going to talk about, the 3. We're going to keep it at 3. Also, Redman. Some will say Redman had a nice run with There's a Dark Side being the second album. What the album, There's a Dark Side, and Muddy Waters, his best album. That's a nice run. Now, in terms of regional, I'm sure the East Coast look at that as probably one of the better runs. I don't know how maybe people in the South or on the West Coast look at Redman's run, but I know that on the East Coast, people look at that as maybe a top 10 run. So it's Redman's first 3 albums. Would you consider that a top 10 run of 3 in hip hop? What about Public Enemy? Yo Bum Rush the Show, It Takes a Nation, $1 Million, and Fear of a Black Planet. I would say that ranks up there. Right now, I would say that run ranks in the top 10. Public Enemy ranks in the top 10 with that 3-album run of Yo Bum Rush the Show, It Takes a Nation, $1 Million, and Fear of a Black Planet. I do feel like It Takes a Nation, a Million is the most important and greatest rap album ever created. That doesn't mean it's necessarily the best rap album ever created, but it's the greatest rap album ever created. And the impact and the way it just kind of changed the game with the production and everything with the Shockley brothers and Chuck D is just the Bomb Squad is something special. Of course, we know they did Ice Cube's debut album, America's Most Wanted, but I would say maybe top 10. And speaking of Ice Cube, Ice Cube is known to have that historic run, after leaving NWA, of course, being part of Straight Outta Compton, but then having, America's Most Wanted, the death certificate and, Kill at Will, Lethal Injection, all of this stuff, The Predator. I mean, Ice Cube run is really more than 3 albums. I mean, it's really something amazing. You know what I'm saying? And during that same time, you had Eric B. and Rakim. So you're going to have Paid in Full. You're going to have Follow the Leader. And you're going to have Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. Some will say Don't Sweat the Technique is a strong 4-album run. But again, if we're just looking at those first 3, talking about Paid in Full, is still cited as, it's kind of the first Illmatic. You know what I'm saying? Like Paid in Full is kind of the first Illmatic. In terms of the way people kind of bit Rakim's style and the way he was rhyming and things of that nature. And of course, Follow the Leader, he just took it up another whole notch lyrically. And then, of course, Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em was like part 3 of that trilogy, and he closed it off in fine fashion. So I would say Eric B. and Rakim's run is right there somewhere maybe in that top 10, potentially. What else I have here? So actually, Ice Cube is America's Most Wanted, The Death Certificate, and The Predator. I don't love The Predator, but it is a dope album. I actually like the album after Predator even better, Lethal Injection. I think Lethal Injection is Ice Cube's third best album personally, even though Predator did get a good ranking as far as like by the professional writers and things like that. It was well received. But I personally take Lethal Injection over that. Oh, man, since we're on the West Coast, man, what about DJ Quick, man? Quick is the name, Way Too Funky, and Safe and Sound. I think that's a nice sleeper right there. It will be outside of my top 10 greatest 3-album runs, but it's definitely a sleeper. You know what I'm saying? What about Gang Starr? Step Into the Arena, Daily Operation, Hard to Earn, and that's tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, and really, I said before that Gang Starr and MOP are 2 groups that, to me, don't have a bad album. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might like certain albums better than others, but there is no whack Gang Starr album. You know what I'm saying? There's no whack MOP album. You get what you get. The sound, they're going to keep a certain kind of formula, and it's just going to come off the way it need to come off. You know what I'm saying? So there's not going to be whack about that. Other 3-album runs, and we'll get into some other comparisons soon. Another 3-album run, G-Rap had Road to the Riches, Wanted Dead or Alive, and Live and Let Live. I thought that was dope. I thought Scarface, you gotta look at Scarface having more than 1 3-album run. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll get into Scarface after a while, but you can surmise that he had more than 1 3-album run. Cypress Hill having the Cypress Hill self-titled album, Black Sunday, and Temples of Boom. Yeah, you could definitely sometimes you can hear my wife and son and they're being loud right now. Sorry. But anyway, because it's New Year's Eve and people getting the house together. But yeah, Cypress Hill self-titled, Black Sunday, and Temples of Boom. I'm gonna tell you that impact of those Cypress Hill albums could possibly make my top 10 dopest 3-album run. It's potential. Now, when I say 3-album runs, also it doesn't have to be their debut, sophomore, and 3rd album. It could be any place anywhere in their discography. Because when you think of Mobb Deep, most people don't consider Juvenile Hell a very good album. I mean, they were teenagers, they were young, had a couple of good joints on there, you know what I'm saying? But people consider the Infamous as when the Mobb Deep run starts. So you have the infamous Hell on Earth and Murder Music. Now, that run right there is in my top 10 greatest 3-album runs of hip-hop. That's just amazing what Mobb Deep did, and that 3 album run is just, it's nuts. You know what I'm saying? What do you think about Dr. Dre with the Chronic 2001, and Compton? You know, is Compton underrated? What do you feel about Compton? I thought Compton was pretty dope. You know what I'm saying? And that Diary joint, the last track, I can't remember the exact song, but it's called something out of my diary or something. Well, that's one of my favorite Dr. Dre songs and favorite Dr. Dre beats, man. It's crazy. And all 3 of the albums, of course, engineered perfectly. It sounds loud and clear, and just, it's just amazing how the technical part of the album was done. Every time Dr. Dre has his hands on something, it sounds so crystal clear. So Dre did have a nice run. Of course, that's not in my top 10 3-album run. Might not make my top 20. I'm not sure, but I just thought I'd bring that one up. Not About Nature had Not About Nature self-titled album, 1993, and Poverty's Paradise. It won a Grammy, you know what I'm saying, as well. Nada Was Large. How do you look at, I think Not About Nature might be underrated. You know what I'm saying? Like that 1993 was a good album, man. But you know, Not About Nature self-titled, then 1993 and Poverty Paradise, they had some hits on them albums too. And Treach is always, for some reason, when people are ranking MCs, you know, I always give flowers, man. I gave flowers to Treach on a thread on Twitter 2 years ago. Treach is an amazing MC, you know what I'm saying? And he killed those albums. And Vinny was a good side, you know, as far as like, you know, I don't want to say sidekick, you know what I'm saying, but, you know, Robin, you know what I'm saying? And Treach was Batman, and it worked. So it is what it is, man. That was a good one. What about, man, Organized Confusion, man, having their joint self-titled, then Stress, and then the Equinox. That's a nice little run right there, man. You know what I'm saying? That's a nice little run. What about Kendrick Lamar? You know, Kendrick has done something special, but Kendrick is one of those positions where I think that there's a segment of hip hop that really won't give Kendrick, to me, his props. You know, taking Section 80 out, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Damn. I mean, the variety that he reminds me of Outkast in terms of every album sounding totally different. Kendrick is special like that. You know what I'm saying? So his trajectory and his career looks like Outkast to me, and Kanye to a degree. You know, because Kanye West came out, College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, 3 amazing albums back to back. You could say I think I'm gonna have to slide Kanye in that top 10, and Kendrick. They both closed that top 10 3-album runs, man. You know what I'm saying? Because say what you want to about Kanye, man, but him putting that together was something special. You know, Kendrick doing that, something special. Same way I said, Kendrick joints sound different, man. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's just one of those things where you got to respect that. You got to respect the art. You know what I'm saying? Now, some other good 3-album runs. What you think about De La Soul run with 3 Feet High and Rising, Balloon Mind State, and De La Soul is dead. So De La Soul is dead second. So you're looking at 3 Feet High and Rising, De La Soul is dead, Balloon Mind State. Now, that doesn't make my top 15 probably. Now, if it was 3 Feet High, De La Soul is dead, and Stakes is High, then that might have made my top 10. Balloon Mind State, to me, it is a dope album, but I don't love it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I Am My B is one of my favorite De La Soul songs. Break of Dawn is one of my favorite De La Soul songs. I'm also a big fan of Ego Trip as well. You know what I'm saying? But they just gonna miss the mark a little bit for me. You know what I'm saying? So, but De La Soul did have some dope runs. Some people love Balloon Mind State. You know what I'm saying? I didn't love it like that, but I thought it was solid. You know what I'm saying? So, actually, earlier I said something about Scarface. It's actually The Diary, Untouchables, and My Homies, if I'm not mistaken. So, what would I rank that? Probably between 10 and 15 in greatest 3-album runs. I think I would put Scarface in the 10 to 15 rank with those 3. Another one I like a whole lot too, man, is a T.I., man. Trap music, urban legend, and king. Trap music, urban legend, and king, man. That's a run, man. That's a run, man. Actually, T.I.'s run right there is one of the best from the South, and I would also match it up against a lot of the MCs and groups from the East and the West. T.I. killed with that. You know what I'm saying? He definitely killed with that. Now, I was talking to a friend the other day in the studio, and he said, your boy Nas could be considered, but what about I Am? Because Illmatic, it was written in I Am. And I say, you know what? I consider Nas having one of the greatest E3 album runs because obviously Illmatic being one of the greatest rap albums of all time. It was written, one of the best follow-ups you could even imagine. I've talked about it was written on articles I've written and other threads I've done on social media over the years. I Am, people got to remember, I Am received 4.5 mics in the Source magazine in 1999. You know what I'm saying? Back when people still was rocking with the Source. This is I Am after, this whole I Am Nostradamus thing, all these songs leaked on Napster. You know what I'm saying? I had a version of Nostradamus with like 21 songs on it. Of course, it had The Drunk by Myself, The Fetus, Hardest Thing to Do is Stay Alive. Purple wasn't on that. I said Drunk by Myself. It was a whole lot of songs, man. You know what I'm saying? Even that Stay Scheming joint that Rick Ross and Drake and all of them end up using later on with, I think, with French Montana. But that's a Nas joint from the I Am days. You know what I'm saying? So Illmatic, it was written. You know what I'm saying? I still would put that in the top 23 album runs. You know what I'm saying? Maybe top 15 3 album runs. It's close. You know what I'm saying? It's close. Let's talk about a sleeper real quick. Rick Ross. Deeper Than Rap, Teflon Don, God Forgives I Don't. One thing about Rick Ross, like him or not, Rick Ross know how to make dope music. And he know how to make dope albums, which I recently was tweeting about. That is a skill and a gift. And Rick Ross has that. All of his joints sound big. You know what I'm saying? And his 3 album run, it is incredible to me. You know what I'm saying? Now, if we want to look at more some underground joints for your underground heads, Rock Marciano, that Mark Berg, whatever, Reloaded, and what's that, Marcy Back Up or something like that, Beak Up. I don't remember how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, you guys. But the Rock Marciano 3 album run was pretty dope. I've heard all of his music. I am a fan, but not someone that follows him like that. But I mean, he's a dope producer and dope MC, man. He's raw. You know what I'm saying? And he has some great albums. You know what I'm saying? Same way with like Freddie Gibbs, man. You know what I'm saying? We'll talk. I'm gonna talk about him in a few minutes because I think that what he's done in the last 5-7 years has been incredible. Some more sleepers: Cameron, SDE, Come Home With Me, and Purple Haze. Funny thing is, I was talking about Cameron, did a little thread on him the other week, and I named Confessions of Fire, SDE and Come Home With Me. And everybody like, oh, look, man, we like Confessions, man, but Purple Haze better. You know what I'm saying? So this time I decided to start at SDE, then Come Home With Me, and then Purple Haze. And I think that's the consensus that people feel like it's Cameron's 3, you know what I'm saying, his run at the apex. You know what I'm saying? So what you think about that Cameron run, man? I would put that maybe in my top 25. What about the Roots? You know what I'm saying? Do You Want More, Ill or Death, Half-Life, and Things Fall Apart. Definitely in my top 15 to 20 greatest 3 album runs, man. That's incredible. You know what I'm saying? And Do You Want More is dope. That Ill or Death, Half-Life was actually my album of the year for 1996. I posted all my albums for 1996, and we know that 1996 is potentially, for most people, a top 5 year in hip-hop history. I have it at like number 2, I believe, behind 1988. You know what I'm saying? I think 1996 edges out 1987 and 1998, because 1998 is a sleeper also. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that Run the Jewels 1, 2, and 3 had a nice run of albums. Obviously, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Tupac with Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, and Machiavelli. That 3-album run is incredible. I would probably have that in my top 10 3-album runs. I mean, Me Against the World, for me, is Tupac's best album. It's the one that feels so authentic. All Eyes on Me was a double CD block party that helped him take over hip-hop early part of 1996, even though it was a flooded year. And before the Fugees dropped and all of that stuff like that, it was pop. Machiavelli, of course, coming out later that year. After him passing away, I think even if he'd have been alive, Machiavelli still would have been a hit. Hail Mary is just one of those big revolutionary type songs. Of course, if he'd have been alive and Against All Odds is released, it's like a B-side or something like that. I mean, it takes this whole East Coast, West Coast thing and a battle against Bad Boy and Nas, and he even did De La Soul and Exhibit, and he talked about Tut and Jimmy Henchman and what's you got, Haitian Jack, everybody on Against All Odds. So it would have still been a massive album anyway. You had Toss It Up with Jodeci on it. I mean, whatever. So Pac's 3-album run was, definitely one of the better ones. Jumping back to the East Coast real quick, Ghostface Killah has one of the best discographies in hip-hop history. But how do you look at his 3-album run with Iron Man, Supreme Clientele, and Bulletproof Wallet? I think, obviously, Bulletproof Wallet is the album that will keep him out of my top 10 as far as 3-album run. But if it would have been Iron Man, Supreme Clientele, and Fish Scale, then it might make my top 10. Ghost still probably is in my top 20 3-album runs, though, when I think about it. Who else has some nice 3-album runs? Lil Wayne had the Carter 1, 2, and 3. I think the Carter 2 is his best album. I think he was rapping his ass off on the Carter 2. The Carter 3 is what made him, a bigger star because of the big hits on it. But Carter 1, 2, and 3, man, was a very nice run, man. Staying with Young Money, we think about Drake. Thank Me Later, Take Care, and Nothing Was the Same. For a lot of fans for his generation, that's going to rank pretty high because Drake is probably the biggest artist in the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably going to rank pretty high. This rank is high for me, you know what I'm saying, even though I actually do like Drake. But I don't know how that lasts. I mean, how high that's going to be, because Drake doesn't take much chances to me. I know people say, well, no, he made a dance party album. He does this, he does that. I don't consider those chances. I consider that he just makes what's popular at the time. He jumps on that, and which I'm not mad at. He's the biggest artist. But the lack of originality hurts his 3-album run to me, even though popularity-wise, nobody can really see Drake. You know what I'm saying? What about Eminem? When you think about Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, and the Eminem Show, you have to admit that that's going to rank pretty high. The impact is going to be pretty high. So the Eminem, he has, I would say it's a top 20 3-album run. You know what I'm saying? I would say it's a top 20. What about DMX? It's Dark and Hell is Hot, Flesh of My Flesh, and then there was X. Damn, top 30 for me, but definitely dope. Maybe in the top 20, I'm not sure, but X did his thing on that as well, man. You know what I'm saying? What about Rhapsody? Ideal, Beautiful, Layla's Wisdom, and Eve. Look now, Rhapsody has one of the best 3-album runs of any female MC ever, and she's giving some guys a run for their money. She's giving some guys a run for their money, man. With Rhapsody 3-album run, I think Rhapsody 3-album run is right there, or just as good or better than MC Lyte and Latifah run. She might have the best run. You know what I'm saying? Then she has a mixtape run. So, you know what I'm saying? Future had a 3-album run that a lot of people like. You know what I'm saying? He has his fan base. You got to give Future his props. Common, starting at Resurrection. One Day It All Makes Sense, and Like Water for Chocolate. Yeah, that's definitely top 15 3-album run to me. It's definitely top. You know what I'm saying? What about people like OC having having what's it, Word Life, Jewels? Is Star Child his third album? Somebody gonna have to fact check OC's third album for me because I haven't seen his list in years. But obviously, Word Life and Jewels, his first two albums, and then I think the Star Child might be the third one, but I could be wrong. But I know he did have 3 or 4 very good albums back to back. You know what I'm saying? So he has that. Just trying this thing on top of my head. Other people who had very good runs. Jeezy, what was he about Jeezy? You know what I'm saying? Like Thug Motivation, The Inspiration. What's his last album? I don't even see that one there. So Let's Get It is the first one. I know that, and then is it The Inspiration and the Recession or something like The Recession? I believe it's The Recession. So that's pretty strong. You know what I'm saying? Jeezy joint is pretty strong, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, what about Nas later in his career? Because we talked about Nas having first about KRS-One having 2 runs, the BDP run and the KRS-One solo run. Nas having Illmatic, It Was Written, and I Am, but then Nas having King Disease 1, 2, and 3. You know what I'm saying? With Magic put in there. So you got the beginning of his career, he has this run, and then not the end, but this point in his career, having another 3-album run. Does anybody else have that outside of KRS-One and Nas? I think that's something to look at. You know, so we know KRS-One and Nas have 2 3-album runs. Would you consider Jay-Z's run of Reasonable Doubt, Volume 1 and Volume 2 a very dope run? You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously he has Volume 1, 2, and 3. Do you want to use those 3 volumes? Do you want to use the Reasonable Doubt and then Volume 1 and Volume 2? Do you want to start at, somewhere else in Jay-Z's career and use, the Black Album and the Blueprint? Well, what would you use that at? Is it the Dynasty and then the Blueprint? But then you got the Blueprint too. So, I mean, Jake's stuff can be kind of spotty. So maybe you can use the 3 volumes. And I remember one time I did a post about Volume 1, 2, and 3 versus the Carter 1, 2, and 3 with Lil Wayne. I thought that's interesting. Jay-Z against Lil Wayne with the Carters and the volumes, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Maybe you'll pick another point in Jay-Z career and take 3 albums in a run. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how that meshes up. I think I got to put Reasonable Doubt in that run. But I still think it would be strong because I always say Volume 1 is underrated. You know what I'm saying? I love Volume 2. You know what I'm saying? Pusha T. My Name Is My Name. King Push and Daytona. Pusha T is one of them people, like, he kind of reminds me, like I said earlier, about MOP and Gang Starr. You know what you're going to get with Pusha T, and he just doesn't have a bad album. Same with the Clips. Even if you don't love them, they just don't have bad work. You know what I'm saying? So Pusha T will be one of the newer guys. Let me see if I got anybody else down here. So Future having DS2. Is that Evil and Future in the Future album? Okay, so but I put Freddie Gibbs here, man, because having that Freddie album, that Bandana and that Alfredo, that's something special right there. So you gotta look at Freddie Gibbs as one of the guys in this generation who dropped 3 very good, great albums back to back. Freddie, Bandana, Alfredo. I mean, those are album of the year type albums. He might be the last one to do something that's strong. Ransom has done some very good projects over the last 2 or 3 years or what have you. It's hard to have these kind of runs in hip hop. Again, to have one dope album, I do believe someone like who was robbed of someone like Biggie, Ready to Die, Life After Death, and then what? Because it wouldn't have been Born Again. Obviously, maybe he would have named it that, but it wouldn't have been the material you heard on there for the most part. It'd have been, it'd have been more polished. I always say that Ready to Die made Biggie, pretty much right there as one of the faces of New York. Life After Death made him one of the greatest MCs of all time. Some will say the greatest. He accomplished everything and anything an MC can accomplish on Life After Death, but I always imagine what the album will be after Life After Death. I always said that to me, the trajectory that Biggie was on, I think that his third album could have potentially ranked as one of the greatest albums of all time, if not the greatest. I think he was on that trajectory with the way he put everything together on Life After Death. We'll never know. There's other guys and other female MCs and groups that had great runs. We recently talked about Wu-Tang. How great was Wu-Tang run as a group? You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously 36 Chambers and Forever, but would a third album be to the standard where you would rank it as an amazing 3-album run? You tell me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. Is it Iron Flag? Is that the third one? Is it the W? Somebody fact check that. Either way, I just don't see either one of them making Wu-Tang be able to have one of the best 3-album runs. Now, if you're talking about Wu-Tang as a crew, then you're talking about the Cuban Links and Iron Man and Liquid Swords and all these albums coming out around the same time. You know what I'm saying? So you talking about them as a crew, they definitely they had one of the best runs in hip hop history as a crew with their solo ventures. You know what I'm saying? But that's not really what this is about. But if we threw that little nugget in, then you can definitely say that Wu-Tang is up there, man. But who has the best 3-album run? I've talked to several friends about this. We'll also take this to Twitter and talk about it as well as I release this video. Of course, thanks for rocking with me. I don't want to hold you long on New Year's Eve, of course. I just had a couple of thoughts. It's been a while, so I thought it'd be cool to go ahead and do episode 28. I will say again that I think that Run DMC's self-titled King of Rock and Raising Hell is the most important 3-album run. I think that Outkast, Southern Playalistic, ATLiens, and Aquemini is probably the most diverse 3-album run. Tribe's run is impressive. Nas and KRS-One, like I said, both of them. You could say did it twice. Kendrick, Kanye, 3-album runs are not to be slept on. They could both be considered top 10 or right there. EPMD from the golden era. You can always say that they're right there with that run. Same with Ice Cube. There's some underground artists that you have to give love to. You know what I'm saying? That has amazing music. Had amazing runs. Now we talked about, even when you think about Griselda, and think about the projects that Benny, the Butch and Conway have done. You think about Rock Marciano again. You think about, a lot of these guys. Ransom, like I spoke on earlier, with the music he's released over the last few years. Freddie Gibbs, I guess he's kind of underground. He's kind of known as well. He has a following, nice cult following. His run was incredible over the last few years. I mean, it's a skill, man. Who else am I missing? Are there any other people who have great 3-album runs to you that don't get the credit they deserve? Once again, man, be safe tonight. You know what I'm saying? One love to you all. Thanks for rocking with Tony the Dome. Thanks for checking me out on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for showing the love that I've been getting. I just tweet the same way I've tweeted for the last 10 years. Nothing has changed, and people continue to follow, and I just appreciate over 15,000 followers, man. It just keep going up, and I'm just sharing my thoughts, man. I'm not saying I know it all. I'm just having fun talking about the culture I love, man. You know what I'm saying? One love, people, be good. Peace.